table, it was actually in a different room from where we filmed it, and we had the audience was broken into groups of 6 to 8 people, and they all sat at the table with the performers, which made some people feel profoundly awkward, apparently. And there was somebody playing guitar in the pantry, and in the bathroom everybody was like really crowded into this tiny space, and the musician was in the kitchen. And then the bedroom was a little bit more of a standard theatrical setup where people sort of stood or sat, and the bed was sort of the stage, and then the musician was singing in bed with recorded music. So that's what we were looking at.
I have a question. So one of the possibilities of site-specific dance is sort of collapsing that life-art dichotomy, and I see, because this is your own home, I see that happening with you perhaps the most. And I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about your motivations for making work in your home and how that was different than making it for a proscenium stage.
Sure. I mean, my interest in site-specific work did start at Jurassic, which is why I showed that, and it's not quite as intimate as being in my home, but I was really, really burned out on making work for the stage, and in fact had folded my company, and of course that's when I got a residency. So when I did come back from that, I didn't make any actual finished pieces while I was there. But when I came back, I moved into this new place, and the vibe that I had at Jurassic of like this incredibly low barrier from any seed of an idea to action and doing something sort of carried over, so that when I'm looking at my bathtub and thinking of these friends of mine and their relationship, it seemed like it was going to be very easy to do, and I think that was part of what my interest was the idea that it was going to be easy, which it sort of was. And the collapsing of the life and the art, definitely, it sort of felt organic to make a piece at my house, so I would choreograph in my bed. And it was like my friends just came over, and we would have some tea and rehearse. It was great. And I think one of the most interesting things for me about the overlap there was working in the bedroom, because Tom, who's the performer, is my boyfriend, and so I'm there in bed, like going and like lying on him, and then having the dancer like get in bed with him and be like, okay, now lie on him, and anyway, that's they definitely overlapped there.
Just as I was watching, just to think about the context of doing this sort of movement where if you're in bed and you do this movement of closing your eyes, just to see the beauty of that movement and the power that it has in that context. But if you came out here, you lied on the floor, you did that movement, it would have a completely different meaning and a completely different way of resonating. And just so that, again, it's so obviously opening up this place of adding more of possibilities of movements to be considered dance, if you want, or to figure out the way to make them show up as that. Because every night when you go to sleep, don't you think about, how is this dance, or how do I experience this as a communicative action or event? And so here was a way of making that happen.
Yeah. Several people asked me about doing the piece on bringing it to stage, and I just thought it would not be good. And that I was interested in the experience for the audience being totally different, like coming over to somebody's house, and I really wanted it to feel that way, so that it wasn't what you were saying in the beginning of that thing where the audience comes in and they sit over there and nothing is expected of them, and the idea that it's sort of for some specific kind of person or something like that. And I think I liked the familiarity of all of this. It's like everybody has breakfast and sleeps and fights in the bathroom, I guess. And I think one of the nice things about this was the pieces were actually kind of really easy to make, because you just put yourself in that situation and then do what you would do. So they are dances, but they also kind of made themselves, because I didn't have to come up with some new movement vocabulary. Like, all of that movement exists in our daily lives, and I don't know if I go through my life thinking like I'm going to bed and this is like a dance, but I think I do like the idea that for a minute after seeing that piece that people might have thought about that.
I think that comment on vocabulary can really open up this conversation, because one of the things that I was curious about for all of the panelists is, how does the site, the ideas certainly influence the ideas of the piece, but how does moving in a different site influence the actual physical movement and the choreography? And I've heard you speak about the meridians extending beyond the body and how they can extend in a different way when you're in space. And Joanna, I know you dance on the sides of buildings, which is a whole different movement vocabulary. So I'm wondering if you two can speak a little bit about the possibilities that are opened up by this way of working.
I want to just start where I am right now, thinking about what I've just seen. And I think it really boils down to the difference between dancing in a a conventional theater situation, is you're dealing with illusion. It's totally illusionistic art. And you can do certain things in a theater working with that concept of illusion. When you're working in an environment, you're dealing with life. It takes you into a living situation where you're dealing with either history, or you're dealing with intimacy, or you're dealing with props, or you're dealing with people, or you're dealing with ethnicity. I mean, it's so connected to your real life that the intention is so completely different. And why you do it in the first place is a question that I always ask myself every time, why am I even doing this? There's something about your piece when I was at Jacob's Pillow, and I saw it on the video. It really brought me back to what it was really like for the slaves to go through that experience. And it's more the way indigenous people work with dance. When my son-in-law's in Cheyenne Indian, and he once said to me, I didn't know that that dance was supposed to be beautiful. I just thought it was part of life. And it's an entirely different concept. So all these questions about your movement vocabulary or this or that or the other thing is interesting, but I don't think it's the point. I think the point is, what is your belief system around why you're dancing? And what do you want to do with that, that dedication you have? Because of all the arts, I think is probably the most difficult. So you have to give yourself over completely to a commitment. And I think that all these things that I've seen, you would live your life differently in your apartment. You'd be more aware when you take a bath or you're having breakfast with your boyfriend or whatever. And that's what really interests me. That's all I have to say right at the moment, just in response to what I've seen.
Okay, I think we're going to open up in just a moment. But yeah, we will absolutely get to you.
I'm not sure what to add, because I thought that was really well stated. But maybe I'll just say that that there are moments when your body is in relationship to material. So let's say that is water, that's earth, it's grass, it's concrete, and a wide variety of things. And that's something that is kind of inherent to making site work, because the materials are constantly changing. So how you're interacting and the things that how your body responds to the materials is always changing. And and that's something that's very exciting to me, because because you're always learning something new about yourself through your body as you relate to these new